She was only 5 when she said the sentence that ruined my life. "Mommy, Daddy says you buried him wrong." The glass slipped from my hand and shattered across the kitchen floor. But I didn't move, because my husband Daniel had been dead for almost a year, and I was the one who buried him. At first I told myself it was imagination. Kids invent people. They talk to shadows. They laugh at empty corners. That's normal. That's what I needed to believe. But Lily never called hers a fairy or a monster. She called him Daddy. Every night she sat by her bedroom window whispering into the dark like someone was standing outside listening. Sometimes she laughed, sometimes she cried. Sometimes she just nodded slowly like she was listening to secrets, and every time I asked who she was talking to, she gave me the same answer. "Daddy says he misses us." That was when I stopped sleeping, because Daniel wasn't supposed to be missed. He was supposed to stay buried. Everyone loved my husband. That was the cruelest part. To everyone else, Daniel was perfect, charming, successful. The kind of man who remembered birthdays and helped old women carry groceries. People thought I was lucky. They had no idea who he became when the front door locked. Behind those walls, Daniel was someone else. Cruel, controlling, violent in ways bruises couldn't always prove. Sometimes it was his hands. Most times it was his words. He knew exactly how to make pain look invisible. For 7 years I lived inside that prison. I learned how to read his footsteps, how to tell his mood by the way he dropped his keys, how to apologize for things that were never my fault. And when Lily was born, I made myself one promise. She would never grow up believing fear was normal, but leaving a man like Daniel is never simple. He controlled everything: the money, the house, the car, even my phone. Every time I thought about running, he reminded me what would happen. "You leave," he whispered once, "and I'll make sure nobody ever finds you." I believed him, because by then I knew exactly what he was capable of. The night everything changed, rain slammed against the house like fists. Daniel came home drunk. I knew before he opened the door. The rattling handle, the uneven footsteps, the smell of whiskey before I saw his face. Lily was sitting at the kitchen table coloring. She looked up and smiled. "Daddy?" He barely looked at her. Something had happened at work. Someone had embarrassed him. And when Daniel felt powerless, someone always paid for it. That night, it was us. He started yelling before he took off his coat. Dinner was cold. The house was messy. I looked tired. I was useless. The usual storm. I stayed quiet. Silence usually helped. Usually. Then Lily dropped her crayon. It rolled across the floor and tapped against his shoe. Such a tiny sound. Such a tiny mistake. Daniel looked down at her, and before I could move, he slapped her. Not hard enough to leave a bruise, hard enough to destroy something forever. She looked shocked, confused. Then she started crying, and something inside me died. Not fear, something colder, something final. I took Lily upstairs and locked her bedroom door. I sat beside her until she fell asleep, stroking her hair while the storm shook the windows. She looked so small, so helpless, and all I could think was this: if I did nothing, one day he would destroy her too. I had spent years surviving, waiting, excusing, promising myself I would leave tomorrow. Tomorrow never came. But that night I understood something clearly. Sometimes survival is cowardice wearing a polite face. When I came back downstairs, Daniel was passed out on the couch, one shoe still on, TV flickering blue across his face, snoring like nothing had happened, like he hadn't just shattered our daughter's world. I stood in the kitchen staring at the marble pestle from our mortar set. Heavy, cold, final. I picked it up. My hands were shaking so badly I thought I'd drop it. I remember crying. I remember whispering, "I'm sorry." I don't know if I meant him, or myself, or the woman I used to be. Then I walked into the living room. One swing. That was all it took. The silence afterward was louder than any scream. No yelling, no threats, no footsteps, just rain, and the television humming softly in the dark. Daniel was gone, and for the first time in years, the house felt still. I should have called the police. I know that. But fear doesn't leave when the monster dies. Fear stays. It settles into your bones. I thought no one would believe me. I thought Lily would be taken away. I thought his family would destroy us. So instead, I cleaned. At midnight, I wrapped his body in an old tarp and drove to the woods behind my late mother's property. No houses nearby, no walking paths, no witnesses. I dug until my hands bled. I buried him deep. Or at least, I thought I did. When people asked where Daniel was, I lied. I said he left, walked out after another fight, took cash, started over somewhere else. People believed it faster than I expected, because men like Daniel leave damage everywhere. He had debts, secrets, enemies. People shrugged. Some even said, "I'm not surprised." Weeks passed, then months, and for the first time, I thought we were finally free. Then Lily found Daniel's watch. I was folding laundry when she walked into the hallway holding it like treasure. Silver face, black leather strap, the scratch near the clasp. I knew that watch. I had hidden it in a locked box in the attic. A box she couldn't reach. A box she didn't even know existed. My stomach dropped. I stared at her. "Where did you get that?" She smiled. That innocent little smile that somehow made everything worse. "Daddy gave it to me." I snatched it from her so fast she started crying. I hated myself for it. But terror moves faster than guilt. That night she refused to sleep. She sat upright in bed, staring at the closet door like someone was standing there. The room felt wrong, too cold, too quiet. I sat beside her. My voice barely worked. "Lily, what did Daddy say?" She turned slowly, and in the calmest voice I had ever heard from a child, she whispered, "He says you buried him wrong." I couldn't breathe. I forced myself to ask, "What do you mean?" She blinked, still staring past me. "He says you forgot his ring, and he wants it back." At 2 a.m., I grabbed a shovel, a flashlight, and my keys. I drove to the woods with my heart trying to tear its way out of my chest. I kept telling myself children imagine things. Ghosts aren't real. Dead men stay dead. But deep down, I already knew. The storm the week before had been bad, flooded roads, fallen branches, mud sliding downhill. Enough to shift soil, enough to uncover secrets. The woods were silent when I arrived. No wind, no birds, just wet earth and the sound of my own breathing. I found the grave exactly where I left it, and my stomach turned. The dirt looked disturbed, fresh, uneven, like something had moved. Then my flashlight caught it. A hand, half buried in the mud, pale fingers reaching from the earth. Daniel's wedding ring still clinging to one finger. I dropped to my knees. I should have felt horror. Instead, I felt rage. Even dead, he still found a way to control me. I started digging like a madwoman, mud under my nails, rain soaking my clothes, shovels slamming into wood. Finally, I hit the coffin. I ripped it open and froze. It was empty, no body, no bones, nothing, just darkness. I stood there staring into that hole, trying to force my mind to understand. That wasn't possible. I killed him. I buried him. I watched the dirt cover him. So where was he? Then I heard footsteps behind me, slow, careful, every part of my body locked. Then came the voice, soft, familiar, almost amused. "You always were bad at cleaning up, Emma." My blood turned to ice. I turned slowly. And there, standing between the trees, smiling, was Daniel. Alive. Mud on his shoes, rain on his shoulders. That same calm smile I used to fear more than his rage, like death had only been an inconvenience. He took one step closer. "Did you really think it would be that easy?" I couldn't speak. I couldn't move. Then, from behind me, I heard Lily's voice, small, quiet, sharp as glass. "Mommy." Daniel disappeared. Gone. Just darkness between the trees. I spun around. Lily was standing there in her yellow raincoat holding my phone. Her eyes were dry, cold, too old for 5 years old. And then she said the words that truly ruined me. Daddy never said any of that. My heart stopped. She stepped closer. I did. The shovel slipped from my hand. She looked at the open grave, then back at me. I saw you that night. My legs gave out. I fell into the mud, shaking. No, Lily. Tears finally came to her eyes. Not fear, disappointment. You said monsters were bad people, but you're the one who buried Daddy. I tried to speak, to explain, to tell her what he was, what he did. But children don't understand survival. They only understand what they saw, and she had seen everything. She wiped her face and whispered, I kept waiting for you to tell the truth. Then she held up my phone. The screen was glowing, recording, red light, still on. My entire world collapsed in that single second. She looked at me one last time and said, If Daddy was the monster, what does that make you?